So today, I'm going to be painting a British Line Infantry soldier. This company, the model is from... I can't remember now which company it is. I've had them in a bag for a while. Possibly Victrix. Yeah, I think Victrix sounds correct. Could also be Perry Miniatures. Could be Perry Miniatures. Either way, British Line Infantry, 1809, well, 1805 to 1815, roughly. Anytime sort of in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start with Basilicum Gray. And I'm going to do that on the pants. So I said in my post originally that I was going to talk about painting a bunch of figures that look similar to each other, and that can sometimes be a daunting task, having to do the same thing over and over and over again. And a lot of the time, the prevailing theory is that, and now this is all just personal opinion, there's no absolutely have to do it one way or the other, but the theory is that you want to paint the pants on something, on one figure, then go paint the pants on the next figure, go paint the pants on the next figure, and, go all the way down the line, and then by the time you're done, that'll be dry, and you can go on to the next step, and then you paint the hat on every figure. One at a time, boom, 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 boom. And so while that is a valid option, what that does is you don't get the excitement of seeing finished models until basically they're all finished. So you don't get any excitement out of seeing, hey, I have half these figures done. They're pretty much either all not done or all done. Which is fine, excitement at the end of a project, yippee. But a different way to look at it is that you can go figure by figure and paint all of a certain thing on the miniatures, and then you'll get these sort of hits of excitement. So what I mean by that is, instead of, I'm only painting one miniature today, but, instead of going, all right, so his pants are now first color on his pants, so then I'd pick the next figure, do pants again, next figure, pants again. Instead, what I would do is say, I'm going to paint all the clothes on this guy, and then move on to the next thing, and then all the clothes on the next guy. And then I'd come back eventually to the first one, and then say, I'm going to paint all the details on this guy. All the shoes, the buckles, everything like that. And then you get miniatures that are much closer to the finish line, sooner, rather than spending all this time going down all the pants, all the hats, all the shirts, blah, 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 blah. So when you get back the second time around to this figure, say you've already done all the clothes, and then you paint all the straps and buckles and shoes, you put that miniature down, and he's practically a finished model. And so that's exciting. You can see, hey, I could put this guy on the board, and he'd be all set, ready to go. And then you move on to the next guy, and you do the same thing, and now you have two finished models. Whereas if you're doing it the other way, you would be on the very last step of painting before you ever finish the model. Which works for some people. Don't get me wrong. By the way, I'm just going into Blood Angel's Red, and I'm going to do his jacket. And that works for some people. To kind of zone out and paint all of one thing and then all of the next thing. But there are alternatives, and doing it the way I just described, you aren't going to lose that much time. If you have all your paints ready to go, you can... Because the big idea behind the assembly line method, which is all pants, all shoes, all hats, all jackets, etc., is that you save the time getting your paint out every time. So you get your gray out once, and you paint all the pants. And then you put your gray away, and you're done. Whereas the other way, you have to get your gray out again. Well, if you have all your paints ready to go, then it's not really an issue. They're out, and they're ready, and you're all set. So that's just something to think about, that there are multiple ways to paint a bunch of figures that are all the same, and it can be a soul-crushing task sometimes if you're, oh, I have to paint 100 of these guys to get my army ready. And I hated painting the first one. I really don't want to paint 99 more. So I oftentimes put pants first so I can relate to this. That's great. That's awesome. It's perfect. Everyone puts on pants in the morning. I shouldn't say that. Everyone puts on leg coverings in the morning. Skirts, dresses, pants, shorts. And if you don't, and you live in a nudist colony, well, more power to you. But most people put on some form of leg covering in the morning. Alright, so I'm just trying to work out exactly what is his jacket here and what isn't. This is a smaller scale of model than I usually have painted on here. And in general terms, it's not. So I'll just go through what kind of scales basically we're looking at here. So what we have is, we have 28 mil scale, which is what this guy is. 28 or 25, he's 28. 28 and 25 sort of interchange. Then, on top of that, we have 28 mil heroic scale, which is sometimes compared to 32 mil, but that's a bad comparison in my opinion. 28 mil heroic and 32 are different. So what 28 mil heroic is, and I'll show it to you right here. So these two guys are the same scale technically. They're both 28 mil. This is the guy I painted on the last stream. But this guy, as you can see, his head is exaggerated in size, his wrists are exaggerated in size, his legs are exaggerated in size. Everything is bigger, his fingers. Everything is just slightly scaled up, just a little bit outside of the realm of reality. This guy is a true 28 mil figure. A true 32 mil figure will be scaled up from a 28, obviously, but won't be scaled up into the realm of not believing what you're looking at. 28 mil heroic is that. So this guy is true 28, so while he is technically the same scale, he is not quite the same problem to tackle, I'll say. So he's got smaller details. Let's see if we can... So this guy. These two guys are the same scale. Just, they're both 28 mil models. This is heroic scale. This is normal 28 mil. As you can see, this guy's hands compared to this guy, huge. Because they're blown up to be the heroic scale, which is to be... Their heroic scale exists to look better on the board, to ease painting, to ease sculpting, all sorts of reasons. It's a design choice as much as a practical choice for companies that use 28 mil heroic scale. So, while they are roughly the same size, as you saw, that wizard was roughly the same height as this guy, his features are just blown up a little bit more. So that's the difference between those models and this model. In this, I chose to talk about the batch painting or assembly line painting, as you can sometimes hear it referred to, in this episode specifically because historical miniatures, you know, in some games, you can play a game and you'll have one of that miniature. Like, you might run around, you play in a game and this is your wizard. This is your only wizard. In historical games, unless it's a general or an officer, you will almost never be playing a game where you have one of a miniature. Yes, there are skirmish games like Saga and things that your models are all individual. The vast majority of historical games, you'll line up 50 British dudes all in a line, and they all look the same, and you go pew-pew and you fight. Okay. So, historical miniatures are much more often next to other miniatures that look identical to them, so that's why I chose that. Alright, so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the black. So I'm going to use Black Templar for this. And this is going to be the helmet, which is covered in an oil skin currently. And the shoes I'm going to do in black, and I'm going to do the cartridge box in black, which is what this thing is right here on this side. He's got his canteen and what looks like just a pouch of some sort on this side. He's got his cartridge box here, backpack, cookware looks like, and his blanket roll. So I'm going to start with the cartridge box. I may need, because this is such a skinny line on the strap that's holding this, I may need to go into a layer paint black instead of a contrast black, just to make sure I control it correctly. But we'll give it a whirl with the contrast and see what happens. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to do the backpack in this color also. I'm going to come back and paint the straps and all that. And then I need to decide, once we get on to the second layer, basically, of things, like the straps and the buckles and all that, I have to decide what color his cuffs are going to be. Cuff color was as varied as the people in the British Army at this time. This guy specifically, he's going in a diorama. In my mind, that diorama is taking place in the Waterloo campaign, 100 Days campaign. So the British Army was all over the place in terms of the nationality of who was in it, and cuff color was just as varied. I think I might go with a green cuff here, but we'll see. We will see. I could look up a historical regiment and say, this is how I want to paint them, and so I'll do this cuff color, but I don't have the need or the want to do that. I just want to make a cool diorama, so. I personally can't associate myself with anyone that can't get their cuff color correct. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. So, just going to get this cartridge box. Strap here. And then these straps carry over these miniatures, these historical miniatures from, I believe this is Perry, the more I look at it. They are very detailed. You have every individual strap modeled and all sorts of stuff. Alright, so the rest of those are going to be a tan color, off-white. So I'm just going to paint the helmet now. And this looks like, I'm not super up on my British military facts, but I don't know how many of you actually care about British military facts, but I believe, excuse me, this is a Belgian shako, or shako, this guy is wearing, and it's covered in an oilskin, some sort of animal pelt that's been coated in oil to waterproof it. I believe these shorter helmets were the Belgian shako or shako, but I cannot remember. Alright, so that's all the black that we need to do on him. Just trying to... There's a tassel or something hanging right here. That's what it is. I'm not sure why there's a tassel there. My only thought is maybe when I built this guy years ago, this should have been an officer's body, and I accidentally put a musket in his hand, but whatever. I'll paint it just the same, and it'll be fine. So, just noticed a couple spots that I need to touch up with the red. I built this guy kind of like an ape a couple years ago, apparently, so the joints aren't all that great. The painting still holds up, so it's fine. It doesn't need to be a perfectly built model to paint this on stream. There we go. But, you know, probably should have gone back and fixed that before, but it's too late now. We've already started. Alright, so now I'm going to do... I'm going to take a look at him here. Man, I don't know what's going on here at all. It's like he's got two cuffs on. I don't know. I was a crazy person when I built this, clearly. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint the blanket roll. I'm going to do that in blue. Nice solid ultramarine blue. Middle of the road blue. And then it will be on to the details. trying to avoid those straps as much as I can, but not super required, because I will be going over those with a layer paint, so... Oh, I would like to not get a blue line on my red uniform, though. Alright. Almost done with that. Just gotta get this side real quick. Alright, so there's his blanket roll done. And now, I think, I'm just going to do the right here, you can see, maybe, if the camera wants to focus on the right thing, there we go. Right there on the canteen, you can see the wood grain there. So I'm going to paint that like a wood color. If I can find the wood color. Wild wood. I don't know how wild the wood would have been on a 1800s British soldier, but nonetheless, we're using it. I just had my brain melted there for a second. Went to say when this British officer or British soldier was from, and I was like, he's from the 1800s, and that's the 19th century. But then my brain was like, wait, is it the 17th century? Even though, no, it's not. It's the 19th century. But my brain was like, if you get this wrong on camera, you're going to be ridiculed. But no. 19th century British soldier from the 1800s. Here we go. All right. So next, I'm going to do a skin. I'm going to do that in Golem flesh tone. Not that. Here we go. Somewhere, probably, is the paint I need. We'll see. There it is. Golem flesh. So I'm just going to get the skin in this real quick. Perhaps a little... It's a little paler, perhaps, than a British soldier would have been at this time, but, you know. Oh yeah, the gun. I should have painted the gun when I was painting the canteen. That's okay. I'll paint it in just a second. This color, the skin color, is much lighter anyway, so putting that over top will not be a problem. There we go. Oh god, a fun fact from Dylan. I can't wait. I haven't read it yet, but I can't wait. If this is a real fun fact and not a made-up fun fact, I'll be shocked. Fun fact, in 1672, an angry Dutch mob ate their own prime minister. See, I'm just not so sure. Alright, I'm going to go back to Wildwood and paint the gun. Ate their own prime minister. I mean, I wouldn't put it past there to be angry mobs in the Netherlands around that time. And I could even see them being angry at their prime minister. Although, 1672 seems early to have a prime minister. But, I might be stupid. But eating them? Eating them seems like a stretch. In fact, I'm going to say with utmost confidence that the Netherlands did not even have a prime minister in 1672. Again, I could be very wrong. And there may have been a title of prime minister that is historically accurate, but that has a different function than prime ministers today. That's entirely possible. But I just don't think. Let's get an on-air fact check then. Okay. That's fair. I'll leave him to dry for a second, because we need to do that anyway. And I'll get some fact-checking going on this ridiculous claim of yours. Alright. 1672 Oh god, the first result on Google is Dutch Prime Minister. This is not good. This is not good. Alright, here we go. Johan de Witt was a Dutch statesman and major political figure in the Dutch Republic in the mid-17th century, when its flourishing sea trade in a period of globalization made the Republic a leading European... Okay, that's not helpful. Aha! Did an angry mob of Dutchmen kill and eat their prime minister in... just fact-check it, the Netherlands wasn't even invented then. That's fine, it doesn't have to be the Netherlands, it just says Dutch, it doesn't say the Netherlands. I was just... get out of here. I was just saying that because they're... Wow. This is great. Free advertising for this. Alright. Johan de Witt, blah, blah, blah. Killed along with his brother. There were accounts of some among the mob taking parts of the bodies and eating them. Oh, yeah, look at that. Was at war with England? Yep, sure. He was the Grand Pensionary, in effect Prime Minister. Okay, so he wasn't called the Prime Minister back then. He was called the Grand Pensionary. Same role as the Prime Minister, though. Blah, blah, blah. Sure, they tried to kill him. May have been exaggerated. People often take souvenirs of executions. Okay, so it's a solid maybe. A good solid maybe. From that source, anyway. Who knows? So, I'm going to say your claim is a solid maybe. That's what I'm going with. And, yeah, we'll see. Maybe someone will come along and be like, no, actually, here's 40 reasons why you're wrong, Greg. Alright, so I'm going to get back to this miniature. And that was actually a perfect time because it allowed our first layer to dry. And now we can go in and start adding some other layers to this guy. So I'm going to take some brush on primer. Doesn't actually matter that it's primer. It's a really nice gray color. That's why I'm using it. And I'm just going to highlight the pants with sort of an overbrush style here. Because this color does make them too dark. So just going to cover up some of this darker color here. Just to bring these back down to the light gray they're supposed to be. But we do want that darker color in the shadows, so we'll leave it there. Good. Alright, there we go. So there's his pants. It's a much more... There we go. Much more natural color for British pants, British military pants at this time. It seems my sarcasm has fallen on deaf ears. Yikes, man. Yikes. But it's... you're right. The Netherlands was not a thing. It was the Dutch Republic. So, alright. Let's go to the metal, I think. So for that, I'm going to use Iron Breaker. This is going to be the barrel of the gun, the bayonet, the ring around the canteen, the cookware on his back, and I'm going to do the facing, or the button thing. There's a whole bunch of terminology that I'm not great on, this stuff. I'm going to do these fancy things on his jacket in silver also. I think they would historically be white on your typical line infantry, but I like it in silver. And honestly, I'm sure there was a regiment somewhere that used silver. Or maybe he just had like a fancy upbringing and so he has a fancy jacket. Who knows, man? Could be one of so many things. Alright, so there's that. And then the cookware here. It would actually be pretty funny to make that a regular thing. when I need some paint to dry, just have someone shout a ridiculous historical claim in the chat, and I live fact check it for everybody while I let the paint dry, so I'm not just sitting here like, yeah, we're waiting for paint to dry. Still waiting. Alright, so I'm painting the bayonet, and then I need to find which one of these lines on this gun is the barrel and make sure I paint the correct thing. Excuse me, it was not ridiculous. Not a claim. I saw a live stream. Okay. Alright, so where is the barrel on this gun? It's sort of... Oh, he's got the gun sideways. Oh, I see. He's gangster tilted his musket, is what he has done here. Now I understand. Okay. I mean, I don't understand. I understand what I'm looking at now. So there's the barrel. Obviously, here's the hammer and the striker and all that. The breech, I suppose you would say. Excellent. That's probably part of the bayonet attachment, so we'll just do that. Trigger guard here. I originally thought it was his finger, but that is a weird looking finger if it is. Alright. That should be all the silver that we need to put on here. Oh, no, the ramrod is down here. Is that the ramrod? I don't know where his ramrod is, but this I think is maybe the linkage for his shoulder strap. I'm just going to paint it silver. If it's not supposed to be silver, whatever. Whatever indeed. Alright, so then I'm going to go to my off-white, and I'm going to use Rakarth Flesh for this. This is my base coat for bone that I like to use. I think it'll look decent as the strap color here, though. So I'm just going to paint all these straps that are so far unpainted in this color. And, they may have been more white historically, or not. Some of them may have been leather, or they may have been incredibly dirty from all the marching around and stuff. Who knows? This is a color that you can't really go wrong with. What color are your straps? So they're like a beigeish, tannish color. Sure, that works. I'm going to paint this pouch that's under the canteen here in the same color. So it would have just been cloth, like the straps. And then he does have facing on his jacket. I'm going to do that in yellow. Same as his cuffs. I think yellow will look cool. I was going to do green like I mentioned earlier, but I've settled on yellow now. Just get all these lines painted here. He's got a lot of straps going over his shoulders, so... do that right there. And then straps on his backpack and on the cookware. And then running down here. Alright, I think it's all the straps on him. Just get a little more color in there. Alright. Oh, nope, strap on his gun. Let's do that real quick. There we go. Oh, I see. I missed the sides of these. The side of that. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to do the yellow on the facing. Am I going to do yellow? I'm going to do blue. I'm going to do a very light blue. I don't think I've ever seen a historical unit with this light of a blue as its cuff color and facing color. But, as I said, there were many colors. And I'm not going for perfect historical accuracy here on my personal diorama, just to get the idea. Again, I have no idea what's going on with this guy's cuff, but I'm just going to paint, even though it looks like there's a double cuff here, I'm going to paint both of them. Oh my god, that's his second cough. I'm calling someone. Wow. Alright, so then the facing here. It's not modeled on this guy, so I'm just going to be very careful and draw some lines here. Good enough for me. And then see a spot where I need to touch up his face. So go back to the Guilliman flesh, just this spot right on over top of the gun here. Then I'm going to put the gold on, and then I think I'm going to call it. Just right there. And I'm just going to get under here. There we go. It's better. Oh, I didn't do his collar in the same cuff color, which would have been the case. There we go. And up under here. Or there. All right. So then we just have the gold left. I'm going to use this Dwarven gold from Scale 75. Very bright gold, but that's okay. I'm going to paint these little tassels here. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. I'm going to paint them in gold. And then his epaulettes, I think also should be white, but I'm getting fancy. Paint them gold. Okay. And I think that is it in terms of that. So now I'm just going to I'm going to let this dry for just a couple seconds while I get the paint I want. Let's see here. This will work. So I'm just going to take some Agrax Earthshade, which is a brown wash. There we go. And I'm going to use a thinning technique that I like to use. I'm going to dip the paint, or dip the brush rather, in the paint. I'm not dipping the paint. And then I'm just going to take my brush that has a lot of paint on it, and I'm just going to dip it in my water, in my paint water. And then I'm going to come in and apply this to the miniature. So this thins the paint without hassle. Obviously some people like to thin their paint all the time. That's absolutely fine. It's just not what I do. And so this will just help sort of unify the whole miniature, but won't be so harsh to kill all the color of the miniature here. So I just have some water on my brush still, so I'm just getting the tiniest little bits of Agrax here. And then when I see there's too much Agrax on the brush, this brown wash, I just add some more water to it. Normalize paint thinning. Oh, paint thinning is a normal thing. That's why I called my series Straight from the Pot, because it's different. Most people thin their paints. I do not. I understand the value of it. I just can't be bothered to wait that long. Or not wait that long. I can't be bothered to thin every paint I use. I just want to switch to the next paint and go. Does it reduce the quality of my painting? Sure. Am I not doing the 100% absolute best I could ever possibly do in every paint job? Yes. I am perfectly okay with that. I'm just going to take some silver now after I've put that wash on him. And I'm just going to paint in little dots here on his cuffs. Like there would be buttons here. There we go. Just like that. I'm Gregory and I use thick paint. Yeah, more or less. I don't use thick paint though. I use paint that works out of the pot, in my opinion. Alright, so he's basically done for all intents and purposes. So now I'm just going to pull out the mini diorama that I'm working on, that he's going to be a part of. So, just pull this out. So we got a stream with some fields on either side. So he's going to be about here-ish, give or take. Somewhere like that. He's got some buddies with him. He's got a guy loading next to him. If he'll stand up. All the bases will be cut off, and obviously they'll be attached to this. Dang, this guy, what is he, drunk? There were known to be drunks in the British Army. I'm sure in every army, but you know, specifically the British Army. And then he's going to have some French cavalry. The other guy's somewhere else, bearing down on him. So there he is, our dude that we just painted, right in the middle of the thick of it right here. Just pull him back up on this thing so you can see him up close. There he is. Not a complicated paint job, not a detailed paint job, an adequate paint job. That's what we're going for on this show, and that's what I go for in life. So, thank you everybody for watching. I'll be back on Friday in the Galactic group. In the Galactic Warhammer group. Painting something Warhammer related. That'll be episode 49. And then on Monday, on episode 50, I'll be doing something special. I'm not sure what yet. Something big probably is what I'll try to be painting. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.